Samaya, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
For those who do not know, Samaya is the goalkeeper for Lincoln Southeast and the GEA, and she's a goalkeeper in the GEA ECNL program. And she recently committed to SIUE. So we're going to talk about high school. We're going to talk about goalkeeping and everything in between. So Samaya, let's get started. When did you become a goalkeeper full time? And what led you to choosing that position?
So I was actually just kind of thrown into the goalkeeper position at a very young age. Basically, as soon as we started playing full field, my dad just had me on our little YMCA team playing goalkeeper. And at first, I didn't really like it. I did not like having the ball shot at my face all the time. But after about the first season, I just kind of knew that that's the position I wanted to play. I was pretty athletic from a young age, and I just think that was the best position for me.
Very cool. And so my brother was a goalkeeper growing up, and my mom always says how much he hated watching him play because it just scared her.
Yeah.
Do your parents like that you're a goalkeeper, or is it hard for them to watch too?
I think my dad likes it, but I know for a fact my mom doesn't. Like anytime there's any sort of contact, she'll like wince. I mean, now it's gotten to a point where she's kind of okay with it, but still there's certain times I get kicked and she's like, I don't know if she's okay.
And your dad's probably like with the video camera, like, I hope I got a good angle of that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
All right. So let's go into high school a little bit. Coming up on junior year, last year, you had a pretty solid year as an individual, and your pro and the team had a decent year as a team as well, especially early in the year.
Yeah.
What are the hopes for you and the Lincoln Southeast Knights?
I think this year, just as a team, like overall, we want to make it to state. We fell a little short last year. I think if we would have scored a couple goals, made a few statement games, we probably would have got higher seeding, which is something we're all kind of looking forward to this season. And that probably would have led us to a at least closer run for state. So we're definitely looking forward to that.
Well, I like to hear that that's the goal. I think that should be the goal of every Nebraska high school team, regardless of your history as a program, is you want to make state.
Yeah.
What would it mean to make it to the state tournament sometime in the next 2 years for Lincoln Southeast?
I think it would just be like amazing for our program. Recently, we've just kind of been a team in the middle. I don't think there's been many teams that have talked about us too much. And so I think just coming in this season, kind of being the underdog, especially for a Lincoln team, like I think that would be super nice.
Yeah, because like recently in the last couple of years, it's been, a lot of talk about Lincoln East and Lincoln Southwest. And
Yeah.
I know that that's probably the hope is to be that third Lincoln team in the mix and maybe even knock one of those two off.
Yeah.
You were a solid team last year. And kind of speaking of those top teams, you kind of struggled against the top teams a little bit as a group. You kind of beat the teams you were supposed to beat for the most part. What do you think your biggest growth as an individual player has been since maybe the beginning of last year's high school season to now?
So I think at least on the high school side of it, I kind of had to step into a leadership role last season. Most of the girls would look to me for the experience and just kind of leading the team when times got tough. And I think just having like the reps and the ECNL side of it, playing against really good competition all the time, I think that definitely helped me. And then for the team side, our team was really young last year.
Mm-hmm.
We only had one senior that started. And so the team just kind of found our chemistry and figured out how to play with each other after a couple games. And we had a brand new coach after, a season that got taken away from everybody.
Right.
So I think just having Coach Kramer come in and like lead us to as well of a season that we had, like that was impressive, at least on her side.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's super hard to come back from a season that didn't happen, didn't exist, especially as a new coach. Who are some of the who are some of the players that you play with on the high school side of things that you're kind of super proud of or impressed with their growth, maybe, or who could surprise and show out this year?
I think one of the players that has probably improved the most is our center back, Kylie Kurtzer. She was able to fill the role really well, considering that that's not like a position that she plays all the time. She took like all the communication from me really well and was able to communicate with our midfield line and everybody else. I also think Cadence Bono, she played center back also. She played midfield for part of the season as well. She was able to rotate back and forth in those positions really easily. And I just think for her, like, no matter which spot she plays, she can just like take over the whole field and like shut down any player.
That is a good goalkeeper right there, giving the shout out to her two center backs. I love to hear it. So you're a super committed high school and club player. I think, like, to schedule this interview, your dad was like, well, Samaya has training this night, and she has this and this night. So what do you like most about each version of soccer? Because they're different and they provide different pros. But what do you like? What's the thing you like most about high school, and what's the thing you like most about club?
Yeah, so I think for my high school team, it's just a little more relaxed, and there is an intensity there, but it's not the same that's in club. In club, you're going to practice like 3 to 4 times a week, games on the weekend. Like, it's just always go, go, go. And I think for high school, it's good to just kind of have that break, play with people that you know a little bit better, you're closer to them. And I think just like coming into the high school season, like, you're not always pressured to win every single game. Like, if you lose one, you can come back the next week and just bounce back no matter who you play.
Right. And then outside of playing soccer, you're also involved in some other things, including sometimes helping coach.
Yeah.
What are some things you do what are some things that you do outside of maybe playing soccer? Because I know you've helped out with the club, I think, a little bit as far as coaching goalkeepers. Can you talk about that, or what are some other extracurriculars that are not maybe even soccer related?
So I coach in Lincoln with our Gretna club. I was actually there tonight, and just down there, it's really nice to like give back to the community and to help, especially other kids that are in your position, because like they're going through the same things that I did. And I feel like had I had somebody that was like already experienced and went through it in like just a newer time, because there's so many things that have changed since.
Oh yeah, especially the coaching of goalkeeping has changed incredibly.
Yeah. Like, I remember going into my first season with EGA, and our coach was like, you can only use your hands for everything. And so like we were taught that for like everything, every practice, use your hands only. Mm-hmm. And so I think just giving them the like newer version of it definitely helps. And like just seeing the improvement is insane.
Well, and the other good thing too, especially for young girl soccer players that you might get to coach, is like they get to see you, and when they see you, they look at like, I can be that one day. Like, yeah. I can be a college bound goalkeeper. And I think that's super important, because I necessarily didn't have that growing up when I was younger. My first coach who played soccer didn't happen until I was 14.
Yeah.
And so like that's the good thing about now that we have people like you and other players who are younger giving back to the community so early on, that these younger kids are now seeing people that played the game or that people are playing the game. So that's super cool.
Yeah.
Let's get into the college side of things, because right now, as far as 2023s go, you're, I think, maybe the only 2023 right now in your club committed. And you chose SIUE, which for our listeners, if you're not familiar with SIUE, it's Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville. And they're the Cougars. So it's maybe not a school that everyone in Nebraska is as familiar with. But what led you to choosing SIUE over the schools you were looking at? Or the schools that maybe have been that were looking at you, kind of what was your thinking? What was your thought process? Why did you land on SIUE?
Yeah, so I actually had quite a few schools that I visited before I went to SIUE. The team and the coaches were actually super welcoming when I got there, which was kind of something that I was looking for, because it's obviously going to be a place that you're spending like most of your time on the field with them and around them. So I just wanted people that I would be comfortable with. And I'm going to pursue a nursing degree, and they've been recognized as like one of the top nursing schools, like multiple years in a row. And so Coach Burton was actually super like welcoming and like just accepting of that. Like I had so many coaches that would tell me you can't do nursing and play soccer, or you'd have to choose like another major, biology, chemistry, something like that, and then do it afterwards. And that wasn't something that I was really wanting to do. I wanted to play soccer and get my nursing degree and then just graduate with the degree in 4 years. So.
And that's going to be a full schedule. Having coached young women who have done that, it's going to be a full schedule. But I mean, you already have a full schedule, and it's really funny when one of my experiences is when student athletes who are like healthcare majors or nursing majors, or even student athletes in general, then they get into like when you're going to be a nurse, you're going to be like, oh, this isn't as bad because you'll have been busier when you were a student athlete.
Yeah.
So you've committed to SIUE. Savannah DeFini, so we have one of the better goalkeepers, one of the best goalkeepers in the state going to SIUE. We have one of the better attackers in the state going to SIUE. Outside of soccer, what are some pros? But the Nebraska soccer community, I don't think people could point to SIUE on the map. So what are some pros of SIUE as a school, and maybe of the area that it's located in, like outside of the soccer program?
Yeah. So there's a lot of really nice things about the school. It's about 20 minutes away from St. Louis. So I could easily drive down there for a night and just, watch a hockey game or find a sporting event to do. And then they have like a really big campus, but most of it is like protected wildlife. So you get these really pretty gardens on campus, and you can just ride your bike through all these like trails and stuff down there. So that was really nice to see. And it's like a big school, but there's not a lot of people there, like for how big the school is.
Yeah, like the space, it's a nice space for the number of people that are at the school.
Yeah. And for me, that was like something that I wanted. I was never really super specific about like the size of school or the number of people. I just knew that I wanted like a bigger school. And so when there was something like that, where it was a bigger campus, but like a limited number of people for that campus, it was super nice. And the team there, they are really talented on the field, but off the field, they take their school super seriously. Like their GPA, every time you like are on Twitter, you see all these schools with their team GPA, and it's always one of the highest ones. So that was pretty nice to see.
Yeah, and it's important, especially for the career that you're going into, and just so people aren't embarrassed. I don't think I could have pointed to Edwardsville on the map until Samaya and Savannah committed there, and then I was like, I better look this up to see where this actually is. But I think the one thing you brought a good point up was you didn't necessarily know, like there was no number on what you were looking for, but you just knew what you were looking for, and you took a decent number of visits.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that was a key to finding. And when you were on campus at SIUE, it just sounds like you found, like, you just knew that this was the fit that you were looking for.
Yeah.
So going into, talking about your education, being a nurse, much like being a goalkeeper and being in healthcare, is a real calling. Like you have to be a special individual. You have to be a special student. You have to be a special person. So what drew your attention to nursing as a future career? Why nursing?
I honestly always knew that I wanted to do something for a career that would help people. And so when I was doing my college search, I would just look and see what the majors were at schools. And there was a decent amount that, you couldn't even find the nursing one on there. But as soon as I found it on a couple of them, that was just one that stuck with me. And there's so many jobs in the healthcare, like career area, that you could find so many jobs. And so if there was one that you didn't specifically love, you wouldn't even have to change your major to, do a different job. You'd have to learn the skills for it, but you wouldn't have to take 4 years to find a new major. And so, like, recently I've decided that I wanted to be a neonatal nurse and work in the
Very cool.
Yeah. So I think when I go through the clinicals and stuff, that's probably going to be like the one I end up choosing. But if it's not, like, you get to go through so many different pathways just doing the nursing like program that you could figure out what you want to do.
Yeah, you get to figure out what specialty you want to do and what area of the hospital you want to work in. And like you said, we're always going to need nurses all around the country. So you could move, you'll be able to move wherever you want to after college. Speaking of last college question, SIUE, is that an okay distance away from home for your parents, or do they wish you were closer?
I think they don't tell me this, but I think I was a little closer, but they kind of know that I want to be more independent. And so it's not too far for them, but yeah, I definitely think they wish I was a little closer.
Okay. Last question. And I like that. Parents don't think their kids always know how they're feeling, but I think Samaya has a pretty good idea of how our parents feel about it. So last question about the recruiting process. What advice would you give to fellow 2023s or even 2024s and 2025s about the college recruiting process? Because I think, I had the opportunity to talk to you a while ago, you and your dad, about when you were just getting started a little bit in your recruiting process. But the recruiting process can be fun, it can be stressful, and it can be everywhere in between. So what are just maybe one thing or a couple things that you would say to your fellow 2023s and younger players who will eventually get started in their process to help them along?
I would just say to start as early as you can. Like, when I joined the ECNL team, I was just coming into being a freshman, and that's like as soon as I started on my stuff. And I think you could even get started earlier, like 8th grade. Coaches are always looking for players, and if you can start from an earlier age, they can like watch your improvement over the seasons. And there's always a coach that needs a position filled. So if you're only emailing 1 or 2 schools, you'd have to be like a perfect fit for that school to go there. And so I think just like having a bigger net and like even emailing schools that you might not get into, like, coaches talk. And so if you're emailing, this big Power 5 school and they're like, well, you might not be, a good fit for our program, they could talk to somebody else that you might be a better fit for.
Yeah, that's some really good advice. Like, especially not just emailing 1 or 2 schools. And I just know, like, I was impressed with how early you got started and you and your parents got started on it, but also how organized you were. Like, it was, when I talked to you, it was kind of like you already kind of, had everything lined up. And I think that's a big piece of it too. So, all right, before I let you go, we want our listeners to learn a little bit more about you. So I'm going to give you some rapid fire questions that I need you to give me your best answers to. Okay. So favorite restaurant?
I'd probably have to say Buffalo Wild Wings.
Favorite thing to eat at that restaurant?
It'd have to be wings.
Okay. Then what flavor now? We have to go that route.
I like any of the hot wings. Like, I'm not really a fan of the mild ones. Like,
okay.
Yeah.
Samaya, do you watch, I'm just going to sidetrack us. Do you watch Hot Ones on YouTube?
I do. Yeah.
I love that show.
Yeah.
My fiance got me some Hot Ones hot sauces for my birthday. So
I wish.
Yeah. That's what you got. Ask your parents for your birthday. Hot Ones hot sauces. There you go. Favorite music?
I have to say either like rap or pop.
Okay. What do you get ready? Like, what are you listening to in the car? or before training or games to get you pumped up? Like, who's your go-to artist or go-to song?
I think anything from like Drake, Little Baby, anything like that. Yeah.
Okay. What's your favorite thing to do outside of soccer?
I probably have to say like either cooking or like watching football. I'm pretty massive football fan.
Okay. Who's your team?
NFL team, it'd have to be Green Bay Packers.
Go Pack. I'm a Packers fan too. There we go. See, Samaya, I knew I liked you. Are you a Husker fan? Oh.
I'd like to say I am, but hopefully this season will be better. I say that every time.
The Lincoln, that's pretty bold to not be a diehard Husker fan living in Lincoln. So
I know.
Do you when you're watching Netflix or Amazon Prime, what's your favorite thing to stream lately?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't really have any specific shows that I watch. Most of the time I just like find a horror movie to pop on.
God, hot wings and horror movies. I'm not a horror movie person myself. So what is your favorite subject in school?
Right now I'd probably say anatomy.
Oh, that's the right answer for someone who's going to go be a nurse.
Yeah.
Last question, kind of a two-part question. What are you most excited about over this next year and a half, like going like your junior year and then your senior year? And then what are you most nervous about going to college?
I would say I am most excited about just kind of finishing junior year and then having a lighter senior year.
Because you got the commitment out of the way. You know, you know what you're going to study. Just cruise on into the senior year. What are you most nervous about for heading to college in a little bit?
I would say just like balancing the classes and practice schedules.
Yeah, it's definitely a grind, especially into the program that you're going into. But knowing you, I think you're probably going to be pretty successful, and we're looking forward to watching you on the field in high school and in ECNL for a little bit longer. And then Nebraska soccer fans are going to be excited to follow you over to Illinois and watch you play for SIUE. So, Samaya, thanks for coming on, and good luck the next couple of months as you get ready for high school season that kicks off this spring.
Thank you.